Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and with me, as always, is the Welsh Gamer. Now, he is waiting for his missus to be here, so he's going to jump into the podcast any second.
Hello.
Oh, there, speak of the devil, here he is. Well, Welsh Gamer, welcome to the show. We are live on the air. I want to thank you so much for being here, as always. If you guys remember last week, he had to leave a little early because, he was going to go visit with some family. Welsh, how did that go, by the way?
Oh, it was really, really nice. It was a long weekend. Me and my younger brother, he lives up in London with his best mate. He moved into a new flat. So me and my old man thought we'd surprise him by filling my dad and my mum's 4x4 up with all of his clothes and bedding and all these different toys and shit. And we just took it all up to him to make his house more of a home and went out for a few beers and socialized. It was well needed. I've been missing my brother terrible. So I snapped my dad's hand off when he said, "Do you fancy going to visit him?" So I was really excited. But sorry for me being late. My missus literally just walked through the door. I didn't even give her a kiss. I was like, right, gotta go, bye. I ran up the stairs and here I am. So
well, listen,
everybody.
It's great to have you here, as always. Obviously, you are one of the originators for this particular Xbox Factor podcast. One of the most positive podcasts when it comes to the Xbox brand, something that the YouTube community has been missing, and I'm glad that we get to bring it to you each and every week. And of course, making his debut as a full-time panel member, you know him as the guy that will push you through the door so you get killed first, and you've heard him many, many times on the Breakfast with Boom podcast, which he's going to be leaving so he can do full-time work here on the Xbox Factor podcast. And I'm talking about Zemi Games. Zemi, first of all, welcome to the show and welcome to the panel.
Thank you so much, Boom. And I just love it every single time you just say push another person through the door. And I was actually playing World War Z the other day, and I continued to play with that philosophy, just letting everybody go first. That way I don't have to get scared. It's great. It really works for anyone that's a coward like me. Yeah, just make everybody go first, and you'll be perfectly fine. Always works.
That
but
is
thank you so
hilarious.
Much. I'm super glad to be here. Finally. I'm a permanent panel member on the Xbox Factor podcast. Can't wait. Love talking about Xbox. And let's get into the topics, man.
Well, we are...
Before you continue, can I just say a few words?
Please, by all means.
We have an initiation with this, Zemi. Basically, we'll wait. You have to strip down to nothing but your birthday suit, and you have to take a bus to the nearest town and scream, "Hallelujah, it's Xbox Factor, baby." Then you take that same bus back, and then we'll be here waiting to start.
Okay, for the audience's sake, can I leave my camera off?
Yes.
No. Well, you can't prove anything, Zemi. How are we supposed to know you did it? You could just be lying to us. Mate, you won't get past me that easy, Zemi. Oh, man. No, honestly, on a serious note, Zemi, it's a pleasure to have you. I've worked with you before. You are an absolute asset and a great community member. And yeah, thank you. I appreciate you, and I'm ready to start working with you. Like, let's do this. Let's do it.
I'm pumped too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, man.
Well, I'm just gonna. I want to just throw a couple of things out here real quick before we go further. First of all, a lot of people have been asking me on DMs regarding like getting T-shirts for the shows, and currently I have teamed up with So Sick Clothing. And if you go to the show notes, you're going to see a link to where you can actually get I have three designs to start. We have Primetime Gaming, which is an 80s retro-looking shirt. That's actually happened to been the big popular one. There's a Breakfast with Boom one, and of course there's a Double Barrel Gaming one. I am currently, and I never thought I was actually going to do this because I'm not a graphic designer by any stretch of the truth, but I have designed 3 additional shirts. that will be going up probably in early December. The original designs by me, and it's going to be a total of 6 shirts that you can get into. And the other thing I'd like to do, for me, I have to do it because the support that I get on a daily basis, not only in just messages from this outstanding community, but a lot of people, have joined like the channel membership, and it's something that I was very, very hesitant to do, only because I don't want to over monetize the channel. I do this for the love of this community and the love of these shows that I put together. But, I saw Dealer do it. I seen a few other prominent podcasters do it. And apparently, the community responded very well. And I'd just like to publicly thank the people that have become channel members. Matt Burns, Philly Eagle, Lethal Papa, Masshole 1977, Aiden Williams, Jay Zayas, JD Gamer, Josette Rivera, who of course is my wife, Infinite AA, Scrub Nurse, Moonwalker 925, J Force Gaming, Tempest Sun, Gamer by Choice, and Thanos. And you'll see them in the chat. There's a little icon and an emoji next to their names, and that just lets everyone know that they are channel members. And you can easily just go to, of course, the show notes, and you can see how to do that. Hit the join button and try, and if you can, support Double Barrel Gaming so I can offer more giveaways each and every week. But I want to get into the first topic, and we're already 11 minutes now. One other quick thing. If you are one of the folks that have DM'd me and have been asking for me to start time stamping the topics on each of the shows that I do, I'm going to start doing that with this show. And of course, I'm doing this for the people that said it nicely. There have been some pretty nasty messages that I have received on people who enjoy the show but were really aggravated that they had to listen to most of it. And I don't understand it, but for everyone that has asked, time stamping is going to be a thing that I'm going to be doing each and every show, and that timestamp will be added to the show notes. So if you want to listen to a particular topic and not the whole show, you'll be able to go to that by me putting the notes in. So let's start with the first topic. Now, Drew, I saved this one from last week for you, more specifically for us, because it's a game that we have really been excited about. I think Zemi, it just works out that he's here this week to join the show, that he's going to appreciate this because he's a big Cyberpunk fan and looking forward to early 2020, which we talked about in the pregame. The developer, the Odd Tales Cyberpunk side-scrolling game, The Last Night, lives on, and I couldn't be happier. Now, at E3 2017, the Xbox community was completely wowed by the indie trailer for the game The Last Night, developed by Odd Tales and published by Raw Fury. Now, everyone, and I mean everyone, was stoked to see the stylized graphics that were a callback to the game, if you guys remember or not, called Flashback. And that title, my brother Neo Mental and I played every day for hours. We loved that game. Now, the game and developer have been dead silent since the trailer. And then on January 8th of 2019, Tim Soret, who is the head honcho at the company, had an update. And he tweeted that The Last Night is still in development. The team is still working. Any rumors of cancellation are untrue and frankly baffling. Yes, we have had a delicate position for the last few months, but we are solving it. Now, not this week, late last week, the official Twitter account had a few very interesting things to say. And that's why I got the idea to do this story. It says, Spent the night working on something for our option menus, and it was a picture of a controller lit up in that neon orange that the game is known for. And then there was a video showing the Xbox controller lighting up orange on the left thumbstick, which looked like it was a graphics engine depicting an actual Xbox One controller, and it was, and it blew my mind. The controller looked real, and it wasn't. It was actually graphics from the game. And in the second tweet showing off the rain effects, once again, the graphics engine was so good, it was indistinguishable that it was actually a video and not real rain hitting the controller. So now, Drew, I want to go to you first on this. You know, when we talk about this game, first of all, it is in fact a Cyberpunk game. It's a side story game. It's been confirmed that it's a Cyberpunk game. You were really taken aback when you saw this trailer in E3 2018, and you and I talked on many shows that we were slightly disappointed that this may not actually see the light of day. And now it has. What are your thoughts on that, dude?
Oh man, I'm gonna keep this as simple as I possibly can. The art style, the colors, everything about that trailer, the initial trailer, I mean, referring back to E3 last year or what have you, just really caught my eye. I mean, I was one of those people that rarely bought, I say rarely, I never bought indie games. I never got into indie games. It wasn't something I was into. And then along came Valiant Hearts, and it changed my perspective for the better, because I've played some cracking games like Limbo, Inside, Unravel. I love the side-scrolling element, the puzzle element. I love those types of games. Not every game in the world has to be cinematic, bloody photographic. Sometimes when you get these individuals, these indie developers, these talented people who just go back to the drawing board and break the mold and come out with a stunning looking game. I'm probably going to be booed like an absolute nutter by everyone in the live chat right now, but I'm going to be perfectly honest when I say, not that obviously you can't compare, but I'm just being honest. I'm way more excited for this game than I am for Cyberpunk 2077.
Okay,
so
that's okay. Listen,
I can't wait for it, man. So the fact that it's definitely coming back and it was never going anywhere in the first place, it's just put things into perspective for me that okay, a lot of the times where there's smoke, there's fire, but unless you actually see the fire coming out of the dragon's mouth, just, take everything with a pinch of salt, because me and you, Boom, you'll agree, we were letting the depression sink in, if you will. It was, we were like, oh no, because we both really want to see this game. Now that the tweet has confirmed that it is on the way, I'm very, very, very excited, man. Very excited indeed.
Yeah, it's a game that won awards. The fine folks who are developing Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red, ran a contest where this won first place for a game designed around the cyberpunk genre. Yeah, thank you. And this won top billing. And from what we saw at that E3 trailer, I gotta say, man, my goodness, this is so different and so removed from what we're all going to be playing probably for the next 5 years. I mean, think about it. Witcher 3 was a massive undertaking of a game. It had incredible DLC, some of the best DLC ever in a game. Some people even consider Blood and Wine the best DLC. In fact, so much so that some would say it's better than the actual game. Now, I never got that far, so I don't know. Zemi will be able to talk about that, and we'll get to you in a second, Zemi. But this game, it's a side scroller, but it's telling what appears to be an epic story, and the stylized graphics like I said, Welsh, you reiterate what you said. If this game never saw the light of day, it would be a travesty of justice for gaming.
Oh, mate, absolutely. It would be a true shame. Like a lot of people out there, unless it's quadruple A with photorealistic graphics, they don't look at games like this. But as a gamer, and I know Zemi and yourself will agree, our taste buds are quenched by variety and different levels and different art styles. Like I've said before, like games like Sea of Thieves, I rate very highly because it's a bold undertaking, a whole different idea with a fresh art style. And this is no different. Like, yes, it's an indie title, but it just looks outstanding. It really looks like a throwback to old school games with a very tight narratives, getting awards, and it's not even out yet. Man, like you said, I'll repeat what you said. It would have been an absolute catastrophe to gaming if it had been canned for whatever reason. Because I can't wait to try this out for myself.
Yeah, it's a game that, as it stands, from what we understand, it was going to be an Xbox exclusive. Now, whether or not that still remains to be true, we don't know. Now, when I say exclusive, it's going to be coming out on PC as well. So some people need clarifications for that. And I see Talus saying that the last night with a question mark. Never heard of it. Talus, I'm going to tell you this, my friend. I don't have it in the show notes yet, but I will add it at the end of the show. If you want to just take a look on YouTube, type in the last night. I think you're going to be completely blown away. The game is really stunning to look at. The Zemi Games, I want to get your opinion on this. Now, obviously, you are a gamer that does everything from the indie titles all the way up to the AAA, so you have an appreciation for the smaller developers that no one may or may not have heard of. But more specifically, you're a Cyberpunk fan, and we were talking pre-game about how excited you are for next year to get here so you could play and possibly even review Cyberpunk 2077. When you saw this story and I sent the video, what were your thoughts about this Cyberpunk-esque type side-scrolling, narrative-driven graphical masterpiece?
I mean, yeah, so whenever you actually sent over the game, I was like, what is this game? I'd never heard of it before. I guess it just went completely over my head whenever it was announced at E3 in 2017, right? And I just looked at it and automatically I fell in love. It is everything that I want from an indie game. Beautiful stylized graphics, not necessarily, like the super photo, realistic graphics that you would get and like a PlayStation exclusive game or something like that. It does have somewhat of like a little bit of a cartoon flair to it.
Yes.
But I really like what they're doing. Whenever I was watching the character run around and just looking at the environments, I don't know what it was, but there's another indie game that's called Below, I believe, and it really reminded me of that game. I just recently played that and absolutely fell in love. And I think a lot of people might be caught off because it is an indie game. It is, a 2D, looks like side scroller. But man, I mean, some of the best games that are coming out nowadays are indie games.
Yes.
You guys were talking about variety, wanting variety and stuff. Like I'm hungry for variety, and that's something that these indie game developers are allowed to push. They're also allowed to push themes that a lot of the times might not be in more conventional or in traditional third like AAA titles, and that's just what I like. That's what I like about the indie game scene, that they're able to create a game with new gameplay elements that we haven't ever seen before, nor new like storylines that we haven't seen before. Like for instance, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, talking about, mental illness and stuff like that. There's certain other indie games that talk about suicide, and these are certain themes that never get talked about in games.
Yes.
And I just think that that's really, really cool that a lot of indie developers go out and they're able to do this. And that's why I'm super excited about this game. Not to say that, it's going to be super involved with like themes of suicide or mental illness or anything like that, but just whenever these indie game developers are able to make, whenever they make games, they're not restricted back by a big publisher. They can literally create what they want to create. And, sometimes it's not exactly what we as gamers would want. I think that's why a lot of indie games get a bad rap, is because there are quite a few really, really bad ones out there, but there's also a lot of really, really good ones out there as well. So I'm super pumped for this game. I cannot wait.
Yeah,
Can I piggyback on something Zemi
please,
just said,
by all
though?
means, jump right in there.
Well, it's literally what you said at the end. You said, that indies can get a bad stigma, which I completely agree, due to the fact that there are some bad indies as well as obviously some very good ones. But then I got to piggyback on what you're saying. I have no doubt you guys will agree. There's probably an equal amount of shit AAA titles as there is.
Yep.
And,
Absolutely.
But it's true though. Indies do get a bit more heat from the torch, I guess. Like, it's almost like it goes unnoticed with AAA games. Like, at least it doesn't. There's no stigma there, unless it's an Xbox game, but that's a different topic entirely. But no, I couldn't agree more, Zemi. But the truth of the matter is, like, there is good games and bad games, no matter what caliber the title is. But there is a stigma that needs to be shook away now and for all, because if people out there haven't delved into some of these indies that, like we've discussed, not to mention get excited for the last night, I mean, you're just missing out on some incredible games.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Welsh said earlier, whenever I first saw or thought of indie games, I was like, man, I don't want to play some indie game. Like, what is that? Like, I want to play like the big AAA titles, right? I think a lot of gamers think like that, but it is ridiculous. Like, if you start to think, a lot of games are, that are indie games, you don't even know are indie games. Minecraft, for instance, that started as an indie game. Super Meat Boy, I believe, was an indie game as well.
Yes, sir, it was.
Even recently, probably my number one favorite game of this year, A Plague Tale: Innocence, that's an indie game as well, per definition. A Way Out last year that released was an absolutely fantastic game, and that was created by a small independent developer. And I think that they did go through EA for publishing, but it still was an independent developer. And it just, like, I don't remember the very first indie game that I played that just like shook me awake from my AAA slumber, but there is really a lot of titles out there that are indie games that are absolutely fantastic. And so I don't think that, whether it be an indie game or a AAA game, I don't think that should, hopefully it won't impact anyone's buying decision whenever it comes to this game, because it looks to be fantastic, and I'm sure that's what it is going to be.
Yeah, I got news for you. It's a game that and Welsh and I talked about this several times, how we were championing this game as to why Phil Spencer wouldn't lock this down and really helped him out with the monies, because it looks, I mean, just based on the trailer, it looks like it's going to be an epic tale made by a smaller developer that a lot of people don't know about. And, who's to say that, if Microsoft doesn't step in to help them, like for instance, the way they helped MDHR with Cuphead. Cuphead was, was a game where, even though its stylized graphics and its, appeal would have made it a success, but without the help of actual Microsoft putting it front and center, who's to say? If you remember the story behind them, they had to remortgage their homes to finish the game, and obviously we see what's happening with them. They have new DLC coming out, obviously. They're going to be making a Cuphead 2 sometime down the line, and the company is legit. I mean, this was a mom and pop kind of a company that started out of, you hear about bands starting out in their garage. That's how this was. This was a family-based. If you don't know, MDHR was just a kind of a family-based attempt at getting into game development, and they did it, and look at the success. So something like The Last Night, I want to see succeed, only because, maybe for selfish reasons, I really like those flashback type of games, but more specifically, it just looks so appealing to the eye. It's something I want to learn about the character and the story behind it, and I think that we're going to be seeing more of this game soon. I'm just very happy to not only be talking about it on today's show, but that we have confirmation that the game is in fact still alive and is in active development. This has been a great way to open up the show. I want to move on to the next particular topic, so I'm going to go and see in order and see if now this is a bit of a smaller one. And it is one that the Welsh Gamer and I touched on a little bit before, about when the Connect 3.0 story came out. And of course, Microsoft immediately did the right thing. Their PR jumped into superhero action and they debunked it. And they said there are no cameras coming with the Scarlett. And you know what? It was a move that I'm glad that they did, because the last thing that they need is any kind of negative stigma coming into the next generation. Obviously, they have flashbacks to 2013, and I'm not expecting that for Scarlett. I think everyone's going to be on board, because there's going to be a massive lineup. But this story was brought to us by CCF Tech, and apparently there has been some new patents that were found suggesting that Xbox Scarlett VR actually may be in the works. Now, this isn't the biggest story of today's show, but it's a story that I'd like to talk about, because you guys all know that I'm a huge VR fan. I support the PlayStation VR. Now, I don't have the Oculus or any of the other ones, because I don't have a PC rig to get it. And the new Oculus that's wireless, I'm thinking about treating myself maybe for the holidays. I have to see if the money is there. But Twitter user Walking Cat recently discovered 2 U.S. patents from Microsoft that describe a 6 degree of freedom input device, as well as a virtual reality floor mat activity region. The accompanying images show a boundary mat, stylus, motion controllers, and VR headset, and a Kinect type camera, even though it's not actually going to be a Kinect 3.0. Now, this is obviously a little older, when they found this, and from what we understand, and we've heard numerous times from Phil Spencer, he is not going to bring VR if it can't be like the new Oculus, meaning that it's only going to have the headset and the 2 controllers in your hand, and the boundaries are going to be set up virtually. And I agree with that. I think that we are getting into technology that needs to advance, and I'm hoping that the PlayStation VR 2.0 or 3.0 technically is going to be wireless, and it's going to have motion controllers that are not sticks like they have the glowing ball sticks. I want some actual motion controls, and I think that Sony is going to bring that to us probably a year after the PlayStation 5. I don't necessarily think they're going to put that expensive hardware out and then put another expensive hardware out 6 months later. It wouldn't be a good look for Sony, and I don't think they're going to want to do that. But in regards to Microsoft, I think the same thing. I think that we're going to get the Scarlett. The Scarlett's going to be a monster. It's going to be it's probably going to retain the power crown. I really have a funny feeling that we don't know everything, and they're kind of holding their cards, because again, we've heard Phil Spencer say that Microsoft is in fact never again going to relinquish the power crown like they have with the X currently, and I believe it's going to be the same thing. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be leaps and bounds bigger than or better than the PlayStation 5. I think they're going to be close, but I think that the Xbox is going to just nudge them out. And in how they're going to do it, I don't know, because I'm not a technical whiz. But before the chat is probably already going bonkers with this, the Xbox PR already debunked that there is no new Kinect camera, and we talked about that, and I'm glad. And the patent suggests a camera used for the purpose of only VR, and that kind of does make sense. But here's my question. Now, Drew, I'm going to go to you first. What are your thoughts on the VR possibility coming to the next-gen Scarlett, and do you think Microsoft needs to go down this path?
Right. Clear the old throat. Now, when I read this question to myself earlier, I reading it verbatim, Xbox Scarlett, do you think Microsoft needs to go down this path? Now, I have a very simple answer for you. and this is not me being anti-VR or anti-this or anti-that, as you well know, Boom, I'm more than happy to see technology advance, innovate, progress. I like change, especially when it concerns gaming, so I'm not one of these scared cats under a rock because they saw their own shadow twice. Right now, when you say the words, do you think Microsoft needs to go down this path? My answer is no. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think VR has a place with Xbox at some point, but if I'm just answering the question as written, do I think Microsoft needs to go down this path? It is a straight up no. Simply because VR, even now with Oculus and stuff like that, it's not, the way I see it is it's not breaking any major boundaries. Otherwise, every Tom, Dick, and Harry and their dog would have one in their house. Like honestly, Matt, it's like I remember, and I will never forget it. But I remember when Samsung, I think they were the first brand,
Yes, sir,
brought out their smart TV with the 3D glasses. Oh my God, you can watch films in 3D. Oh, the world stopped. Everyone chink a glass, tap each other on the back. 3D is here, baby. You don't need to go to the cinema. It was shit. It was absolutely terrible. Absolutely god-awful. Another excuse to just put something out there that had no business being in the home anytime soon, just to make a quick buck. It was a novelty item that people bloody grabbed, and they probably made a quick buck, but it was evident after about a year or maybe less that 3D glasses does not belong in the house, at least not right now. And that's how I feel about VR in general. I'm not on about PSVR. I'm not on about Oculus or any of the other ones specifically. I'm just saying VR. Like I said, and for me, unless something is mainstream or talked about universally and everyone fucking knows what you're talking about, like when you mention a smart TV, everyone knows what a smart TV is.
It has apps.
Yeah, exactly. If you talk about the Blu-ray DVD player, everyone, my nan knows what a Blu-ray DVD player is. But with VR, unless you're like a hardcore gamer or something of that effect, and even then, I bet you are, like some of my mates don't have a clue what VR is. I just think it's still in its infancy. Now, without ranting too much, going on a tangent, I certainly think that if any console manufacturer can pull off a convincing VR system with no cables, and frankly, I don't want to see the bloody handlebar things in your hands neither. If they're going to do it and they're going to accomplish that and they're going to bring VR to console, whether it's this gen, next gen, the gen after, whatever, I want to see them utilize some sort of Kinect motion sensor technology, so it is literally just you. I know they've debunked Kinect, but they could still have the camera, some sort of motion technology that's 360, captures your body, so it is literally just you in the center of your living room with the helmet on, no wires, nothing, and you're good to go, whether it be playing Star Wars, Halo, what have you. In an ideal universe, that is when I'd be there with my VR flag going, bring it on, Phil, bring it on. But as of right now, I don't think they need to be in any rush to do it. I think VR has probably been underground. They've probably been working on it for a while, a lot like HoloLens. Like that was underground for like 8 years before it surfaced at E3 2016, and they've shown that off. VR has most likely been worked on even before PSVR released. But it's just waiting for that nice moment, because Xbox has been burned before, like with the Kinect, thinking that was going to be a future breaker, novel, an item that would stand the test of time. And now you ask someone what a Kinect camera is, and 90% of people probably roll their eyes or spit on you. So to be blunt as a baseball bat, no, I don't think VR needs to happen yet. Do I think VR has a place in console gaming? Yes, but when it is 110% ready, like no wires, no messing about, just literally an affordable head kit that, like, it's not a hindrance. I don't want my gaming to be a hindrance. Like, still, I find it hard to imagine any form of gaming that'll beat the convenience of a controller. But when VR reaches the point where you can just, it can enhance your experience with gaming, opposed to like a standstill or taking a few steps back, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I've made any sense.
No, you made plenty of sense. Absolutely. Listen, and I've said this before, as fun as VR is, it's never going to replace a controller in your hand. You looking at the TV. It's just not. I absolutely agree with everything that you said. Great points as usual. But Zemi, before I get to you, I have to thank Sin Vendetta for the outstanding $5 super chat. He says, I tried PSVR and it was fun for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I got over it. At this time, VR is just not for me yet. You know what? I mean, listen, I'll be the first one to admit. I mean, I haven't played, my God, I haven't put on my VR headset in probably 3 months, maybe longer. It's something that I'll, when a new game comes out, I'll get the game, I'll enjoy it, I'll play it for a couple of days, and then I'll come back to it eventually. I like VR. It's something that I will support on either of the, of course, a PS5, which whenever the new one comes out, I'm buying it. And if Phil Spencer decides to bring that to the Scarlett, I'll support that as well. But it's certainly not for everyone. Zemi, I want to get your opinion on this, though. When you hear, I mean, listen, these companies trademark a lot of things, right? I mean, that's standard fare, especially for Microsoft being the software giant that they are. There's going to be a lot of patents, and there may not be any validity to this, but it's an interesting topic. What are your thoughts of VR coming to the Scarlett? And more importantly, like I said to Drew, is it something that the Xbox actually needs in the next generation?
As far as need, I'm not 100 and 10%, sure. I know a lot of gamers, especially a lot of Xbox fans, like they look over at PlayStation, they're like, wow, they have a VR headset. I want one too,
Right.
But let's be honest, how many Xbox, players are actually going to go out and pay $300 for a VR headset and use that above their television? And personally myself, I'm a late adopter to a lot of new technology, right? Mm-hmm. So for me personally, it's not really something that I'm going to absolutely run out and have to get right then at that very moment. I'm probably, if they released one early on, like in 2021, it would probably be until 2022 or 2023 until I actually got my hands on one personally myself. But with this patent, it's actually really interesting because they have like this. Because I was looking at this diagram, and they have like a floor mat, and like the sensor on the TV or on the like the TV stand, and like the players holding like 2 controllers in their hand with a headset on. And I'm just going to be honest with you, I am a fat, lazy gamer, right? I do not want to get up off of my chair and dance around the room and shoot things and stuff. That's not what I'm into. I want to sit down with with a controller in my hand and play. And from the diagram, it looks really gimmicky. It really does, like a little floor mat. And
that's an old design. I mean, there's no way that we're going to get it back to the NES track mat. If you remember that.
Yeah. I mean, and as far as VR goes, like, yeah, sure. I would be, for me personally, I would be really interested in putting like on a VR headset, sitting down at my chair, controller in hand, playing like Elder Scrolls 6 or something. You know what I mean? Like in VR, where I can like look around, like look over my shoulder and stuff. I think that would be really, really cool. But I don't think it's 100% necessary. I think that Xbox is definitely going to end up doing it this generation because they don't want to be left behind. And as it is right now, they're currently leading in, technology. I mean, Microsoft, technologically speaking, is such a more advanced company than Sony is. And I don't think that they want to be left behind. We were talking about the power narrative. Xbox doesn't, never again, does Phil Spencer want Xbox to be the less powerful console? Yep. Well, it's kind of I look at it kind of being the same thing. I don't think Xbox wants to be left out of the VR scene. I think that they have waited long enough, and I think we're eventually going to see a headset this generation. Hopefully it's not anything as gimmicky as like the little floor mat and everything like that. But I think from Xbox's point of view, they probably agree that they need to push some form of VR out, whether it be developing their own headset, using a third-party headset, or both. And hopefully it happens, because there are quite a few people out there that want a VR headset. I'm not really one of them, but yeah.
Can I just say, Zemi, that last thing you said, I can't believe I didn't say it myself, because it's something I've thought about whenever I've discussed VR, and the mic will be right back to you now, Boom. But literally, I think I would prefer, generally, I know it's so easy for us to point out that Microsoft's one of the richest companies. They got an endless checkbook and all that crap. But on this topic of VR right now, I think I would personally prefer them not put any of their own money into their own VR.
Yes, I agree.
Literally just outsource. So it's like, literally, anyone out there, if you're making VR, rest assured it will be compatible for the Xbox. And maybe even have some partnerships with like games or something where like they bundle a headset with a certain game that's utilizing VR. I don't know. There's ways around that. I think I'd prefer that, because then you're leaving it in the capable hands of the people who literally their livelihood is making VR headsets. And it's tit for tat. The gamer over at Xbox will be buzzing and happy, and Oculus or whoever it is will be getting a sale that they wouldn't have had.
Yes.
Because, it's a win-win-win-win-win situation. And personally, I think I prefer that, because the less money Xbox is spending on, for lack of a better term, gimmicks, the more money they'll be spending on acquisitions and games and things that I, as a gamer, and most of the gamers on the Xbox platform would rather have than a VR headset that does exactly what Oculus and whatever's doing, but has a fucking Xbox logo on it instead. It's like, what's the point? Like, for the sake of just giving the green light to other like third-party manufacturers to use that, like with keyboard and mouse and stuff like that. It's like, why the hell not? So great point, Zemi. Great point.
Yeah, actually, I agree. I think that because if you remember when Oculus first came out, they were all packaged with an Xbox One controller. And they have a partnership. They've had a working partnership with Oculus. And to be honest with you, after the Kinect 2.0 shenanigans, Microsoft as a company is obviously gun-shy about doing a peripheral on their own. So what I would do, and I agree with both of you here, going the third-party route, and I think that Graphic God is actually in the chat. Thanks for being here, Jay. He's talking about it being affordable, and they could work out a deal. Now, this could be Xbox branded, but be third party from Oculus, meaning that it's going to have an Xbox logo on it. It's probably going to be the color of the system, whether that be black, white, or whatever, to match the console. And they're going to produce the hardware, and of course they're going to have a partnership with Microsoft. Again, this is all hypothetical, of course, and it would behoove both companies, because, like Wells just said, a lot of people are, civilians. I like to say is the common gamer, not the diehard gamer. The diehard gamer is going to run out and buy this, but the regular Joe who don't know about VR are not going to go out and buy an Oculus. But if it was branded for the Xbox and they were Xbox fans or / owners, they'd be like, well, wait a second, VR, now I'm interested. And if it's a power price, it would sell. All I know is that it's pretty interesting. And again, a smaller topic on today's show, but I think. First of all, I have to welcome Enrique from the Basement Radio Arcade. He says Vive is where it's at with VR. Yeah, I mean, I like the Vive, but I also like the new Oculus. The new Oculus without all of the wires, it looks slick. I have a few friends that own it, and they love it. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly where they go. But you know what? I want to move on to the next topic, and this one. This one has facts, but it also has a little bit of hypothetical theory behind it, and I'm going to get into it. Double Fine Productions, which is a company run by one of my favorite developers to watch and listen to, and of course I'm talking about Tim Schafer. Not only is he a gentleman, the gentleman gamer / developer, he just is he's like one of us, folks. He's a die-hard gamer that loves making and playing games, and we obviously know that at E3 2019, he was brought out on stage, and he's a very charismatic kind of a character, and like typical Tim Schafer fashion, he was up there joking about that they were acquired, and that he wasn't going to be responsible for making the next Halo or something, and it was a big joke, and it was hilarious to see done. But some new information has been brought out regarding Double Fine Productions. And again, this is where we get to the theory part of it. Could they, in fact, be making a AAA Dead Space type of horror shooter exclusive for the Xbox platform? Now, before everyone goes bananas, let me explain how I came to this particular assumption. In a host of tweets this week, the Xbox community was made to understand that many of the visceral team that made the iconic space horror title Dead Space are now at Microsoft Game Studios, but more importantly, they're at Double Fine Productions. Now, this new information was made public with tweets from game designer Ben, who, by the way, is an employee at Double Fine and is currently working on Psychonauts 2, if anyone in the chat was wondering who he is. And this is what he had to say in the two tweets. Much of Visceral Games and the Dead Space studio is on Xbox Game Studios. His second tweet is just as interesting while answering a fan's question. And he responds and says, "Thanks. There are a handful of Dead Space people at Double Fine now, so hopefully we can," and this is where it gets interesting, "recapture some of that magic." Now, I understand it's only 5 words, making half of a sentence. Now, I'm going to say this. I am in no way, shape, or form the world's greatest detective, like, of course, one of my favorite characters, Batman. And this might be a stretch, but this is an Xbox talk show. And I thought it would be pretty damn great and a very interesting talking point that maybe to discuss the possibility of Double Fine making a new AAA horror third-person action shooter. Now, we have heard rumors that the next game from Double Fine that's not Psychonauts 2 will, in fact, be a AAA game. We don't know what this game is going to be. Now, before the naysayers come out of the woodwork, let me just say this, okay? We have seen the same type of scenario happen to Guerrilla Games when they were a studio that only made Killzone. And then, of course, they released the outstanding Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, we all remember that every studio that Phil Spencer had an idea for a game or a title in active development when he visited them. And with that said, we don't necessarily know if Tim Schafer presented a Dead Space type game because they acquired a ton of talent from that studio. Now, that little statement that says we hope we can recapture the magic, I understand it's simplistic in its nature. But, of course, this is a talk show, and this is what we do. Now, I've been wrong a dozen times before, and I'm probably going to be wrong a dozen times more. But, Drew, here's my question to you. Dead Space, when you talk about it, sends chills down people's spines. The trilogy was fantastic. Some people didn't dig 3 as much as I did because it became more of an action game than it was survival horror like in the first 2. But making a spiritual successor from a seasoned developer like Double Fine, who have acquired tons of talent from the same company that brought us those games. What are your thoughts on the possibility of that?
Well, I gotta say this much, like going by the tweets and how he replied to the person who asked like about the level, the development team and stuff like that. I think it's really relevant. And I mean, I know you said about we might not be detectives and stuff like that, but I don't even think at this point you need to be like a world-class detective to read between the lines here. Like,
uh-oh, did we lose the Welsh gamer? That's weird. Okay, well, Zemi, I don't know what happened to the Welsh gamer. Welsh, if you can still hear us, jump back out and jump back in, see if we can get you on here, because the stream is still live from what I'm seeing. So it might be just a little bit of a technical hiccup. Zemi, are you there, my brother? This is very strange. Now I don't have anybody here with me. That is really, really odd. I don't see a message from Zemi, so I don't know if he stepped away for a second. Well, listen, I'm going to continue while we wait for the Welsh and the Zemi gamer to come back. Well, it says connecting. So, yes, of course, I hope that you guys...
Something I literally just... Hello?
Yes, you know what? You're going to have to start over because for some reason, Discord is being a dick. And we didn't hear you. It disconnected. And I'm actually hoping that the chat actually heard... okay, so we're still streaming. Thanks, Scrub Nurse. Why don't you answer that question from the start, because we had an issue with Discord, and it seems to be something that has been plaguing not just me, but plenty of podcasters in the last week. I don't know what's going on with Discord, but it's been a little bit unreliable. Why don't you answer that question?
Yeah, not an issue at all. Basically, I'll stop. Basically, what I said, like you said about it being simplistic. What I find really interesting about this guy's response to whoever tweeted him is the fact that he said, thanks, there's a handful of former Dead Space people at Double Fine now. And he could have easily just stopped there. But he went on to say, so hopefully we can recapture some of that magic. Now, you don't have to be a world-class detective. You don't have to be Batman. You don't have to be anybody. Like that for me speaks volumes. Like that basically to me says that whatever it is they're looking to work on, whether it is a Dead Space successor or just a game that like resembles that kind of genre, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's fair to say, very fair to say, based off of that, and also based off of this article that I pulled while you were speaking about them, Xbox acquiring them and stuff like that. I just think like there's room on Xbox's like lineup for a third-person horror-esque game, because there's not many of them. I mean, like you could argue Gears is kind of a horror, but I think since Gears 1 it's kind of lost its horror element. It's more of an action shooter now. But yeah, I think it'd be a welcome sight, and like you said about like Guerrilla Games with Horizon Zero Dawn, there's plenty of cases out there where this has happened, and based off of the tweets, I think it's very likely to say that it could well be a horror-esque game, third person, maybe even another continuation of the Dead Space saga. Who knows? Maybe they'll reboot it, like a spiritual reboot or something. I don't know. But the fact, I gotta say though, like just to end my point, speculation is speculation. Everyone can throw their hands up and come up with a theory on what you think they might be working on. But I just think it is pretty significant that he added that little bit to the end of his tweet saying, hopefully we can recapture some of that magic. Because why would you say that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
why?
Yeah.
It's one thing to say, oh yeah, our team's amazing. We've got some Dead Space developers. We got these developers, this, that, and the other. But to actually say, oh yeah, we have Dead Space developers at Double Fine, so hopefully we'll recapture some of that magic. Like, speaks volumes to me, Boom.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. And again, this is what we do in these shows. It's you speculate on something and you try and make simple logic behind what you're saying. You're not just going out there and throwing words out there to try and get clicks. Right? That's not what we do on this show. And I got a big shout out to Shishno Elite, who says in the chat, maybe Microsoft could be pushed to buy the Dead Space IP from EA, and that is a fantastic idea, dude. We obviously know that Dead Space, unfortunately, no pun intended, or maybe it's slightly intended, it's dead. It's a series that doesn't have the original developer. EA is sitting on it, and they're probably gonna do nothing with it. And it would be pretty damn exciting if we heard at, I don't know, an E3 or an XO19 or some sort of an Xbox event that Microsoft has acquired the IP from EA for a cash value of whatever, and then this story becomes really super important, because then maybe Double Fine would be the ones to make this, because that team that gave us that trilogy is now at Microsoft Xbox Game Studios, and that would be awesome. Now, Zemi, are you there, sir?
I'm always here, Boom. I'm always here for you, man.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate it. Now, here's the thing. If you're new to the show, first of all, I want to say welcome. And I want to say that if you are enjoying this content, do Boom a favor and really just hit that like button. That's all. It doesn't hurt. It's not going to cost you a dime. Hit the like button. I greatly appreciate it. But if you are new and you've never heard about Zemi Games, he doesn't like horror games. But even though he's not a big horror fan per se, he always has logic and importance to what he's saying. Now, Zemi, you obviously read the show notes. Double Fine Studios, who is Tim Schafer's company, they're known for smaller games, right? And all of their games, a lot of them in the earlier LucasArts days, were like the point and click. And, we've had a few, they pretty much everything that they do is quality. I really like what they do with Double Fine, but they've never really made a AAA game. Now, we've heard rumors that the studio is, in fact, gearing up to, in fact, make a AAA game. And like I said, this tweet, even though it's simplistic and it doesn't really, lay out the breadcrumbs that they are, in fact, making a Dead Space-esque type of game, the one of the developers said they hope to recapture the magic of what they did with Dead Space. I don't know. It excites me as a gamer. What are your thoughts on them releasing a AAA game, but more specifically, actually making possibly a spiritual successor to Dead Space?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense because, Xbox Game Pass is all about variety, right? And, there are some horror genre games on there, but I don't believe that there's any from an actual, Xbox studio, game developer. So, I mean, I think it, makes sense for them to jump into this genre like they're jumping into many other genres. For me personally, like we said at the very beginning of this podcast, we were joking about me being a coward, but I'm actually really a coward. So there's no way I'm going to play the game unless they make it co-op, which I hope is what they're planning on doing. If all of this speculation comes to fruition. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense off of the tweets, them mentioning that they do have Dead Space staff, them then saying that hopefully we can capture some more of that magic. I think it's pretty set that, they are definitely looking to do something like in the horror genre, maybe not super, super scary, but, if nothing else, maybe something a little bit more dark than what we're used to with some of the other first party Xbox games. But I mean, there's not really a whole lot that I can say on it, because there's just not very much known. I think you guys really covered a whole lot of it already, but hopefully it's co-op.
Oh, that would, well, I mean, they the one thing I will say that, and this is a fact, folks, this isn't me trying to to pump up the Xbox brand. The one thing that Microsoft knows how to do better than anyone, and I mean, that's Sony, that's PC, that's a Nintendo. They know how to incorporate co-op and multiplayer. It's a staple in what Xbox, each developer has a certain thing that they do very well, and and for the most part, it's almost unchallengeable. You look at Sony. They are the masters of story-driven, single-player, adult-themed type of games, right? It's that third-person, over-the-shoulder look, right? It's what they do. End of story. They do it the best. But what Microsoft does is they know how to extend the life of a title. And I don't mean it's just tacked on. Like every game that comes out that's a Microsoft first-party IP, the multiplayer is at the forefront of said game, but also the single player experience is as important, and no one does that better. And it would really be pretty awesome if the next game, which if it happens to be a AAA Dead Space type of title, having co-op or even multiplayer in there won't be something that's tacked on. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. Now, before I go any further, a couple of super chats jumped in here. First of all, Rain G4 drops a $2 super chat. So thank you for the generosity. And more importantly, dude, thanks for being here. He says, speaking of Die Hard Trilogy was dope, dude. These young gamers don't know about Die Hard Trilogy. And he sends an additional $2 super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. He says, pump it up, boom. Yes, listen, I don't do things for clicks, and I don't do things for likes. I do things because I really love the Xbox brand, and I know everybody, the 125 plus people in today's chat. Thank you so much, everyone. Completely blows my mind that we get into triple digits, are here enjoying this positive podcast. But listen, this show is going great, and I want to continue on the hit parade, so to speak. So I'm going to move on to the next topic, and it's a big one, and it's a one that I think needs at least 30 minutes of discussion. We have a bunch of people in the chat that are going to be very passionate about this, and we have two panel members that are going to have a lot to say. So we're going to be at this for a while, so let's get into it. Halo Infinite lead producer leaves 343 Industries. And if you're asking who that is, and I'm sure you've heard this story, Mary Olson, who took over for former creative director Tim Longo, is apparently joined him at Midwinter Entertainment. Now, as of this show, Halo Infinite is 13 months away from release. The game has been in active development, if you didn't know, since 2015, and by the time it launches with the Xbox Scarlett, that will be a total of 5 years of development from start to release. Now, according to Gaming Bolt, where I pulled the story from, Microsoft later released a statement to Kotaku stating that roles and responsibilities of various team members regularly evolve to meet the needs of a game. Throughout development, Mary Olson, an executive producer at the time, was announced to be leading Halo Infinite's campaign team as the lead producer, and now she is gone as well. Now, thanks to the unrelenting effort of D Black Raven, who's in the chat, and of course he's from Twitter, he sent me this update to exactly what happened at 34 Industries, thanks to Reddit Halo and a user, Unishek, who's an actual employee at 343 Industries. I believe he's the community manager, clarified everything going on at 343, and there's actually a lot of important information. So please bear with me while I read verbatim exactly what was said, because there's a lot here, and then of course I'm going to get into my panel and see what they have to say. It says, "Hi all, I wanted to jump in and clarify what Tim and Mary's roles were at the studio, because there seems to be quite a bit of confusion here. Before that happens though, I'd like to reassure everyone that the entire Halo Infinite team is rallying behind the game and is working hard to make sure that the game can execute its vision. Tim's role as creative director was to help make creative decisions around the design and direction of the game, whether it was campaign, multiplayer, etc. Mary's role was an executive producer and then lead producer on campaign, was to help drive the game to its completion for our holiday 2020 release date, with the latter specifically focusing on the campaign deliverabilities. Unfortunately, there's a thread titled saying he was replaced with Mary Olsen and then she also left is far from accurate. It implies that Mary took over creative control of an entire game, didn't like what she saw, and then decided to leave. If that's what actually happened, I could totally understand getting worried, but that isn't the case, as she was a lead producer and not a new creative director. Producers at our studio support designers, engineers, artists, etc. by helping each of the team track and hit delivering the game. They also ensure that people that are there to support that they support are not overwhelmed with too much work and will have the tools and information needed to hit their deadlines. To put it simply, producers are the ones tasked with making sure the studio is always moving forward. Even our community team has a producer to ensure we're tracking the game. Blogs, social media posts, flighting emails, and whatever pops up in between. Since Tim and Mary were friends of mine, it's sad that I don't get to see them as often, but I'm happy to see both of them doing well. Mary joins Josh Holmes at Midwinter Entertainment, and it's nothing short of exciting news for me personally because I'm eager to give Scavengers, a game that they're working on, another go. So I mean, he says that the title was, of course, super misleading, and there's no creative dilemma inside of the studio, and there's no quote unquote writing on the walls. Now, of course, he says he finishes it with apologies for the long write-up, but I hope it clarifies some stuff. Now, of course, I have to go to the panel. I know that some content creators will use this story as a jumping off point of how terrible Halo Infinite is going to be, and everyone should just stop being fans of Xbox. We've heard it all before, and I'm not going to mention names because I don't do that on this program. The clear clarification of what actually happened is something that should be put. It certainly should put out the fires, and that Halo Infinite will in fact be okay. So here's my question to the panel. And Drew, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on the Reddit post from the actual 343 employee? And at this time, are you concerned about development on the next big Halo title?
Right. I like to think I'm a very sound-minded person that doesn't frantically lose his shit on a regular basis. So I'm going to keep this very to the on the nose, for anyone out there who is buying into another crap gamer video saying that Halo is doomed, Xbox is on fire, who knows? Not to name drop, but the prick is probably doing that right now as we speak if he hasn't already. So just being blunt as a broom. But I have to throw this out there, man. I have to say this. 5 years this game will be in development. We are just over a year shy of 5 years. So this game has been, for argument's sake, in development for 4 freaking years. Yeah. Now, I can tell you now, from a very, I've been gaming a long time, and I've been doing the YouTube gig a long time. I've been reading articles and learning about the ins and outs of these kinds of things for years now. Am I an expert? No, but I like to think I can hold myself and hold up a conversation. I can hold my end of a debate or an argument. So I can say very, very confidently that the foundations, the pillars of what Halo Infinite is, would have been long done by now. And this last 13 months will just be the polish, the spit and shine, if you will. Between now and its release, it is just going to be graphics related, mapping, the voice acting and the ambience, the music. It's going to be an overall polish work. But even with that said, Boom, even if this news was to drop only a year into its development, opposed to 4 years. All I'm seeing is names thrown my way. And yes, okay, this Mary Bird might be absolutely exceptional at her job, and the guy before her, Tim or whatever. I'm. It's not that I don't care about them, or I don't think that they have their pedigree, their credentials, or they're up for the task. But if I'm just being perfectly honest, we've all heard the saying, and I'll say it again: there is no I in team.
Yep, great point.
At the end of the day, like the people behind Halo Infinite, I don't know how many people there are, but I can actually guess that it's at least in the hundreds. Like I imagine there's like a couple, like 100, 200, 300. Who know? I don't know. And then on top of that, you have the Xbox network. As we've discussed before, the camaraderie between all the first-party developers. No doubt, if need be, Rare will pop their head in and help with like water effects. The Coalition will pop their head in. Rod Ferguson and crew might help when it comes to sound and polish and graphical fidelity, because like what they've managed to do with Gears 5. It goes all round. It's a network. So when I hear that 343 Industries has lost Miss X, Y, and Z, it's a shame. Like, granted, she's gone on to other things, so it's not like she's out of a job, so good on her. But does that mean that 4 years out of 5 years into this game's development, it's just going to crumble because we're missing Sir Tim and Miss Mary? No. Jesus Christ, no. And anyone out there who thinks that's the case, I'm sorry, I love you, but you're a moron. You are actually dull. Because, like, that's just stupidity. There is no I in team, and the fact that people can buy into this construct that when the leader falls, everyone falls, is just not true. Obviously, leadership is important, and I'm sure they're already replacing or have replaced that Mary Bird or whatever her name is, with someone who's going to direct and point. But the project is well established. 4 years in. From here on out, it is just going to be a polished job to make sure it is as clean and as glitch-free as it can possibly be. I bet they're playing the game right now. I bet you it is in a stage of play where they can play it from beginning to end. It is literally just going to be a polished job from here on out. So, but like I said, that's completely irrelevant. Even if this news dropped a year into its development, I still think they have the tools, the network, the funding, and bloody hell, they're well and truly under Microsoft's armpit. If they need a shit, Phil will be there with the tissue paper. There is nothing to be concerned about. Nothing to be concerned about at all. 343 Industries are a phenomenal team. It's like the Coalition. If Gears 5, 4 years into its development, it was announced that Rod Ferguson stepped down for whatever reason, that doesn't mean Gears 5 would just crush and burn. I mean, it would be a shame, but just because Rod Ferguson isn't there, that doesn't mean the team at the Coalition isn't capable of doing their jobs. Case in point, not a problem, not an issue. Everyone who's looking forward to this game, don't let this dampen your spirits. I can assure you it will be as good as it would have ever have been, no matter who's in the bloody throne at 343. That's all I can say.
No, I mean, it's a great point. I think that I got to be honest with you. I saw many threads, many stories, many videos that I'm not going to click on, because I waited for clarification from 343 regarding this particular situation. And I mean, listen, it's going to be what it's going to be. People move on, and listen, maybe they're you got to remember, this is not going to be your OG Halo. It's gonna look and play like your OG Halo, but at the same time, the same way Gears was changed, where it had a semi-open world, right? It gave you an opportunity to do more sightseeing and stop and look for more collectibles and find some side missions to get you more parts for Jack, is what's going to happen with Halo Infinite. It's not going to be your standard, every run-of-the-mill corridor shooter. I mean, it's going to have those elements, but it's also going to have a new way of telling a story that gives the player a choice on where they want to go. It's not going to be, okay, we're going to A, B, C, and D, and the game ends. It's going to be, okay, we're going to start off with A. It's going to have a starting point. There's going to be a main mission that you're going to have to, finish to continue the story. But there's going to be some side story stuff there that tells a more open world of Halo. I mean, listen, if you don't read the books, there's a lot of Halo you don't know about, and I've only read one or two of them. And the second one, I don't think I ever got a chance to finish, which is gross. I should have finished it because it's an amazing. I don't remember which one I was reading. It's been that long. But if you are just a Halo player, this is going to be a great opportunity for 343 to retell the story of Master Chief that some people may not have gotten on board. And now with the game changing directions, where it's not going to be the old school OG type of Halo, it's going to tell a new tale, but an old tale at the same time. If I'm making any sense, Zemi, I want to get your opinion on this, because before we go off the rails here with what story they're going to tell. Are you happy to know that it was a 343 employee that came out and said, I want to clarify exactly what happened? And he actually made it very clear and understanding to what is going on, who left, why they left, and what their roles were. In your opinion, is there anything to worry about when it comes to Halo Infinite?
No, I don't think that there's anything to worry about. And I think it's a good thing that this employee came out and was as transparent with us as what he was. I mean, that's kind of a rare thing to see with a lot of these developers and publishers and everything. So, I mean, that's definitely good. Do I think that he necessarily had to do that? No, I don't think that there was really enough evidence to merit that there was anything going awry at 343 to begin with. But I think it is good that he did come out. He was transparent, and he did squash, a lot of people's speculations and concerns, hopefully. But one thing that I do want to touch on with this is, it just seems like every single time that anyone of significant level in any, in any company that, we as gamers care about, leaves or whatever, we all go into doom and gloom mode, and just we all put on our hat and try to go out and try to solve the mystery, right? Whenever Mike Ybarra left, there was tons of people thinking that something's going on, like maybe somebody, put cheese in his coffee. I don't know, right?
Cheese and coffee is quite tasty, by the way. I just want you to know that.
I don't know. Whenever Sean Layden left, the same thing, and, maybe certain things maybe there is some, some concerns here or there, but I think a lot of the times this gets blown out of proportion. Yes. The creative director left. Yes. The lead producer left. But, people leave companies all the time. I mean, if you went and got a job at McDonald's, I'm sure within the next 3 months, at least 3 or 4 of them are going to leave, So, I mean, people leave companies all the time, and it's not necessarily because they're unhappy with it. It might be that somebody offered them a better position. And that might be what happened here. For instance, at Midwinter, the founders named Josh Holmes.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, he was the studio lead whenever they released Halo 5. He then decided to leave to pursue indie projects. He helped found Midwinter, right? Midwinter is very, very close to 343. I think they're in Kirkland or something like that, which is a neighborhood very, very close to Seattle. So obviously Josh Holmes worked there. Mary worked there. I think his name's Tim Longo worked there.
Longo, yes.
So who's to say that he didn't just offer them a better position, and they decided that maybe the benefits were better at Midwinter, maybe the project that they were working on is better. I mean, just because people leave doesn't mean that the game is going to be utter trash and it's going to be unplayed. And let's say even if that was, what Mary thought, and that's why she left, there are so many other producers below her that can get promoted.
Yes,
You know, even
that
the
is
creative
correct.
director, he has an assistant. That person can get promoted. That's how a lot of these people move up. Because if I'm not mistaken, I was looking at the credits for Halo 5, and I believe Mary Olsen was like on like the art team or something like that, and then she moved up to the producer. So people move up. You know, it's an ever rotating wheel. And so I just don't really think that there's a whole lot of merit in, you know, that the game is gonna, you know, blow up, or it's not going to be, you know, good, or that there's creative difficulties or anything like that. And another thing to also add on is this game is extremely important for Xbox. You know, if this was Xbox back in 2013, I would be very, very concerned, right? But this is Xbox in 2019.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They've made leaps and bounds. They understand how important this Halo game is. The last game, Halo 5, rubbed a lot of fans the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to get this one right. Not only is this pretty much the leading flagship franchise for Xbox, it's also a day one exclusive for their new console. This is going to be the game that is going to get a lot of people to go out and buy an Xbox Scarlett. They have to get this game right. They know they have to get it right. So regardless of what it costs them, how many people need to get promoted, fired, or whatever, they're going to get this game out on the shelves the way that they want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, you made a great point, and I think it can't be understated here today how important Halo Infinite's going to be for the exact reasons why you talked about it, Zemi. First of all, it's a launch title for their next hardware, so this game is being built, designed, and brought to us as a launch title with the Xbox Scarlett power in mind. So it's going to be a graphical masterpiece. There's no doubt about it. It's going to, because it's a Microsoft first party, because it's being built again from the ground up using Scarlett in mind, it's going to do that. But at the same time, we have to understand that this is in fact, when you say Halo, you think of Xbox. Now, some people may argue and say, well, when I think of Xbox, I think of Gears, and that's fine. Or I think of Forza, and that's fine too. But the reality is when you say Microsoft, when you say Xbox, you think Master Chief. He is the Mario of the Xbox brand. When you think of Mario, it's Nintendo, right? I mean, there's so many other characters. There's Yoshi, there's Donkey Kong, there's hundreds of them. But everyone understands that it's Mario's universe, right? Mario equals Nintendo. Master Chief equals Xbox. And I think that Phil Spencer, I think that Matt Booty, I think that everyone at 343 Industries understands. I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say I understand the pressure that they're on. I mean, the pressure must be unbelievably heavy on a daily basis because Halo 5 rubbed people the wrong way, and that they need this to be the Halo Combat Evolved of the OG Xbox. I believe it's going to be that. But at the same time, this is an important title, and I don't think they're going to take any chances. So when someone leaves, understand that there's someone, like Zemi was saying, behind them that is just as capable, possibly even more capable, to handle the position. And it's look, like I said, it can't be understated that when someone leaves, everyone is concerned, right? Now, some people are concerned because they're actually concerned for the company, and some people just want to kind of be D-bags and get clicks for their channel. And if that's what they want to do, that's fine, but you're not going to find that here. This has been an interesting topic for sure. Before we get out of here, anybody want to add anything in particular?
No,
I'll just say this. It is going to be a phenomenal game, and people need to just calm their nerves a little bit, because there's someone said in the chat earlier that there's over 200 people at at 343, over 200 people. So are they really going to miss one person or two or three? Christ, even if 10 people up and walked, I think they're going to be all right.
Yeah, no, I agree. Zemi, would you like to add anything else before we get on out of here to the next topic?
Well, I mean, I guess I will add this in. A lot of people are talking about how, like the titles are reading, 343, is having like creative like distress or something, right? And I just find it funny because, I mean, like, that's not really a story. I mean, that story has no merit. I mean, if anything, the story should be reading how many more employees is Midwinter going to take from 343? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be like the actual story that a lot of these YouTubers should be picking up, not, how Halo is doomed and it's going to fail.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Real quick, Other Zinc, who's a huge Xbox fan, says that there are currently 600 plus employees at 343 Industries. I didn't actually know that. And if there are that many people, rest assured, losing one or two is not going to put the game in the garbage.
Quite 600. I thought I read 200. My bad.
Yeah.
Still, though, like, even if it was just 200, God, man, 100 could take a day off and it wouldn't matter.
It's great. That's a great point. But listen, we're going to move on to the next topic. I want to make sure that I write down this time because, obviously I don't want to get yelled at in the chat. Or, in the messages for screwing up the timestamp. But listen, more importantly, when you talk about Twitter and you mention the name Klobrille, he's a guy. He doesn't like to consider himself as an inside Xbox guy, but he comes out with some really great stories. I follow him on Twitter, he's a really great community friend because he puts out these great opinion pieces. And he brings a lot of really hot off the presses information when it comes to Xbox. And he had some very interesting things to say regarding the Xbox ideology in the next generation, which is happening in the fall of holiday 2020. And I kind of want to get the opinion of the chat, but more importantly, I got to get the opinion of my panel. And here are some of the things that he had to say on his official Twitter account on Tuesday morning. In 2020, Xbox needs to change its stance on not announcing projects early. The other big players do it all the time and it works, even when it's just logos with now in development. Minimize risk by doing so only for Xbox Game Studio titles. It builds enduring confidence in the brand and momentum, in my opinion. Now, he continues with another very solid statement. I see some people saying that they shouldn't do that because Phantom Dust or Crackdown 3 or add title here. As I said, minimize risk by doing only Xbox Game Studio teams that feel are ready to be talked about. These games are the reasons to do it more now than ever. Prove that you can do better. Xbox today is in a much better position. Now, his final tweet on the subject was very good as well. And he states, I'm sure I could give a dozen other reasons why announcing at least some of your games early makes sense, especially with Xbox Game Pass as long-time investment for consumers. I understand that it's a controversial topic, though. Different people have different opinions, and that's cool. Now, I'm going to go to Drew on this. What are your personal thoughts on the matter, and do you agree or disagree with Klobrille on what he had to say on the subject matter about talking about games that might be 1, 2, or even 3 years out, very similar to what Sony does on a regular basis?
Do you know what? I am very torn with this one. Purely because there have been a lot of cases, specifically with Xbox, where a game has been announced or talked about however many years prior to release, and it never saw the light of day due to this, that, and the other. Scalebound comes to mind, always comes to mind. I don't think I'll ever live Scalebound down. But at the same time, I think Xbox as a platform, as an integral platform inside and out, the network of these developers, the stability that Phil Spencer has secured in his time there. I just think the Xbox that we saw at launch at the beginning of this generation, I'm not just on about the box now. I'm on about the company, the energy of that business, that model, to what we have now is a different beast in every sense of the word.
Point.
And now you're probably, and I just think that it's totally different now. So I've always been one of those guys who'll fall back on the scale bound story, never letting it bloody die. And it's because the saying, bit once, twice shy. It's kind of that. But then I gotta try and just sort of like reprogram my thinking, because like I said, and I mean it, Xbox as an entity now is in a much stronger position inside and out in every way, from its hardware, the developers, the games, like the services, the dashboard, you name it. Xbox is peaking hard. So I think when you take all of these developers that Xbox has acquired, I do not think, now that, Phil doesn't strike me as a fool. He does not strike me as someone who would acquire a development team before doing his homework. And by homework, I mean, the main acknowledgement here is, can this team get the job done and the job done on time? If so, welcome aboard. And I just think, with that said, any one of and this is where I agree wholeheartedly, the same thing. When it comes to the in-house first-party Xbox game studios, the ones that are present, the ones that are coming, those guys alone should be able to announce, this is what we're working on, this is roughly when we think it'll be ready for, more information in the future, that's all you need to know. So, like with Fable, say it's Playground Games, I do not see the problem having assessed what you've given me and given a good hard think and dropping the old scale-bound narrative from existence for just this topic alone. I can't see why in E3's past we haven't had, hypothetically if it is Playground or whoever, come on the stage, like we've said 1,000,000,001 times, Boom, and just show the Fable logo with an estimated date. It doesn't. Frankly,
they don't even need to do a date. They could just say Fable across, and people are going to pee their pants.
Thank you. Exactly. That's all. I was just about to say. They don't really even need to show only show the date when you're confident you're going to meet that date. Right. So just come out on the stage and be like, "This is what we're working on. That's all we got for you right now. We just wanted to let you guys." Rest assured, there'll be more information some point in the future, and when we come close to a date, we'll let you know that too. But as of right now, just to quench your thirst, this is what we're working on, whether that be Fable or God knows what. I think when it concerns the in-house first-party Xbox game studio, laundry list that Xbox has acquired, I think they owe it to the fan base who have been, basically rooting for all of this, and with her to just drop just basic hints here and there. It doesn't have to be anything over the top, but I think it'd go a long way.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Zemia, I want to get your opinion on this because, obviously one of the complaints from many, many gamers, including myself, we understand that Phil Spencer has his own ideology regarding announcing games, right? We understand that he wants to just announce games that are anywhere between 12 and 18 months out. Now, for the most part, I'm okay with it, but the one thing that the Xbox brand has been doing in the last 18 months since Phil Spencer shocked the world and announced all those acquisitions is that they're rebuilding their brand, but more importantly, they're rebuilding confidence within the brand and trying to get back some of the gaming community that left for the PlayStation 4 back in the days at the start of this generation because of price and power, right? And, you know, a game like Fable. Now, listen, I don't think there was an Xbox fan. In fact, I don't think there's a gamer in the world today that honestly thinks that a new Fable isn't coming. Now, whether that's going to be a launch, which it's probably not happening for Scarlett, is it going to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Who the heck knows? We know that the game is in development, but I think that it would behoove Microsoft to say, you know, pull a Nintendo. You know, remember when they went up on stage 2 E3s ago and they said Metroid Prime 4, and people were just falling over themselves in excitement just because of a logo, like the Welsh Gamer was saying. And I would like to see some, you know, I don't want to see 5 years down the line. You know, I don't want them to do what Sony did and talk about a game that we don't see for 4 years. But at the same time, I'd like to see something. Do you agree or disagree with Klobrille when he says, you know, I'd like to see them change their stance on this. Now, before you answer, I just have to do two quick shout-outs. Killmonger Ultra drops an outstanding and very generous $2 super chat, and he says, some RPG elements would be fresh to see in Halo. Yeah, I definitely agree. And a new super chat that just came in from Crazy Mate Gaming. He says, could you imagine Fable being a launch title for Scarlett? He says, P.S. I absolutely love the show. Well, thanks a lot for doing that, dude. First of all, thanks for the generosity, but I really appreciate more so that you're enjoying the show. That means more to me than you could imagine. And yes, if that was a launch title, my God, that would be incredible. But getting back to Zemi, do you agree or disagree with Klobrille whether or not Microsoft should kind of maybe loosen their stance and kind of extend it maybe to 2 years instead of the 18 months? What do you think about that, dude?
You know, I think it's a very, very tough question, and not because the question is necessarily hard, but I think it's really hard to decipher what you want, you know, personally, versus what Xbox would probably be best, you know, like the best route for Xbox to take. You know what I mean? Because as a gamer, I want to know every single thing that Xbox does, right? But that's not necessarily in the best interest of Xbox. So it's really kind of hard for me to, you know, dissect what are my personal feelings versus what's actually best for Xbox in this sense. And, you know, I kind of am more on the line that it's going to benefit Xbox more to keep their current their current policy of how they're releasing games. The reason I say that is because, you know, we've all watched like a show on Netflix, right? And we watched like the first 2 seasons, and then like we're really into the show. It ended on a major cliffhanger, and then we go and research and we figure out that the game that the show was canceled, right? And you know, that emotion is how I feel whenever, you know, a game that got announced is canceled and never comes out, right? So for that sense, I think it would be best just not knowing. Scalebound is an excellent, example of this. You know, so many people were pumped for this game. It got canceled. Unfortunately, a lot of people were let down. So rather than let people down, I just think it's a better policy not to build them up, you know, in the first place, right? As far as the 18 months, 2 months, you know, kind of thing goes, I mean, that's what, like 3 months different. I think maybe my math is wrong or something. I mean, that just doesn't really seem. Maybe that's
it'd be 6 months. If it would be a total of 6 months if they went from 18 to 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not really that big of a difference, you know, as to what they're currently doing. And another thing to remember is that a lot of people have, you know, like short memories. You know what I mean? Like somebody will see a game, you know, let's say they announced a Fable game, you know, 3 years out. You know what I mean? A lot of people are going to be kind of over it. You know what I mean? Whereas 18 months out, they announce the game. It's going to build a lot of hype, and we all know that it's going to come out relatively soon. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a really tricky question, but I would definitely go with, I think Phil Spencer should keep doing what the current policy is. It's building up consumer confidence. Yeah, it kind of sucks that we don't know what exactly is happening. But I think it's going to be better for the brand in the long term.
Okay, I mean, listen, that's a sound statement. I definitely appreciate your stance on it. I mean, listen, I'm gonna say this. I think that with the quality of games that are going to be coming in the next few years, I think that in itself is going to garner the respect and confidence in the gaming community once again, like they did, like Microsoft had in the Xbox 360 days. So I'm not too worried, but I kind of agree with Klobrille to the point where I'd kind of like to know. Again, I don't want release dates. Don't tag a date. But if you're making Fable, let us know that you're making it. Get out there in front of this thing and say, yes, you know what? Again, at XO19, and I could be wrong, I could be right. We've been hearing XO19 is gonna garner a ton of surprises that we didn't expect. So who's to say that the head of Playground Games doesn't walk out on stage and say, hey folks, listen, because of the celebration of everything Xbox today, we kind of wanted to make some clarification, get the fan base excited, and just flash the logo Fable. Say, listen folks, we just want to let you know that we don't have much to talk about today, and we will in the near future, but we just want to let you know that yes, we can confirm that Playground Games is in fact working on Fable, and the internet will melt. People will be so excited to know that the game is coming. And what do you do when you do that? So, again, something that Sony does very well. They sell hope, right? They make they get the fan base excited. Even the casual market would when they hear about God of War coming out and a commercials on the screen, they're like, wait a second, that game looks incredible. They go out and buy a PlayStation 4, or they see it and they're like, oh, I have to get a PlayStation 4 because that game's coming out. Now, I mean, who's to say that some of the OG or 360 players that left for the PlayStation 4 saw the Fable logo and was like, okay, now Xbox has me back. And the one thing I kind of want to just throw out there, and I want to clarify this. I know that many people talk about, well, they're not going to leave the PlayStation, their digital library to go over back to Xbox. And I kind of find that hilarious because I would never ask anyone to abandon anything. If I'm being truthful here, no one is going to abandon their 50 or 100 games that they have digitally on the PlayStation 4 to move to buy an Xbox. They're just going to probably support both. Now, they may be more Sony players that only buy an Xbox for a specific game, like a new Halo or like a Fable, but that's fine. I mean, look what I do. All my games are played on the Xbox, but I buy every Sony exclusive because I really like their games. So I'm sure that someone could do the exact same thing. But listen, regardless of which direction they go in, it's a very exciting time to be an Xbox fan, and I have real high hopes for XO19, and I hope that we do see at least the clarification that there is a Fable in development by Playground. That would be awesome. But I want to get to the next topic, guys. And the next topic, it's a bit of a hot pepper here. The Coalition has been putting the smackdown on gamers who rage quit. And the community, some of the community, not all of it, is up in arms over it, calling this situation overly aggressive, banning by the house that Gears built. And, with everything that Rod Ferguson and the team at the Coalition got right, there are still some things that they need to work on. The microtransaction situation is something that we addressed in an earlier episode, Drew, if you remember. And they're going to surely work to make that right. There's no doubt about it. But now on to this particular situation that has sparked some serious debate among the community. According to a tweet from the official Twitter account of the Coalition, this is what they had to say on banning rage quitters. It says this: quitters have been receiving month to 1 year long suspensions for prior behavior. This is how long you could be suspended for. This is how long you can be suspended for being a rampant quitter. Take heed. Over the next few hours, impacted users will be unsuspended, but one quit away from suspension. You have been warned. Now, look, here's the thing, folks. Rage quitting, in my opinion, is a huge problem for gaming as a whole. And this is not a Gears 5 only problem. And to be completely honest, I would have to side with the Coalition on this very drastic step. Now, why this is important for Rod Ferguson and the Coalition to actively get involved is because rage quitting hurts the player base. Just imagine if you are in a 5v5 match, and because you're losing, two people quit, leaving you and the other gamers at a terrible disadvantage. And I've had it happen more times than not, and it's not fun. So everyone, besides getting stomped already, or curb stomped if you want to, throw an innuendo in there, it sucks. It sucks to lose, but guess what? It's a game, folks, and you're not going to have a perfect record. Now, I would like to believe that the Coalition is only banning the worst of the worst offenders, and not someone who had to rush off because they're going to be late for work, or they need to go pick up their son or daughter from school, or even being kicked offline because, that actually still happens with Xbox Live every now and again. So here is my question to the panel, and I'm going to go right to, of course, the Welsh Gamer. The length and the bans are, of course, at the center of the controversy, Welsh. But in my this is where I have to say I'm fine with it, because if you are one of these quitters that rage quit and ruin the experience for everyone, it's not just the one person that's quitting. It's the the people you're leaving behind. That really does suck. Do you agree with the year-long ban? Do you think it's too much?
Can I just start by saying, Rod Ferguson and the Coalition, absolutely incredible. I love it. I think they should increase it to 10 rage quit, because I think honestly, man, it's a problem that plagues more than just Gears. And I think the fact that Rod Ferguson and team have the balls, the cojones, the watermelon nutsack to actually do this, I think it's great. I hope they don't bend the knee. I really hope they don't bend the knee. One thing I will say, obviously, we've all been there where we're playing a game and our internet crashes or something. There's got to be a way around that so then it can differentiate between the two. But these people, boom, and I don't care what game it is. I was recently playing FIFA 20 the other night. 5 games in a row, I would score a goal within the first 5 or 10 minutes and the prick would quit. And it's like, man, it's honestly, oh, mate, honest, it's so annoying. I'm not a quitter in anything, in life in general, so I'm damn sure not going to quit games. I've never quit a game. I've never, ever, ever been so like, I don't want to lose, that I think, I'm going to quit this game. And especially a game like Gears, people out there, friends of the chat, I don't know if you play Gears online, like you might just be in it for the for the online or the horde mode, I don't know. But with regards to ranking, Boom, if you're one of these people who want to try and fit in a quick game, but you're not entirely sure if you'll be able to finish the game because you've got to be somewhere, don't go into the ranked lobbies, please. Go into the arcade mode or the friendlies where it recycles people in and out, and it'll fill it with a bot until someone fills that slot. I don't have a problem with that, Boom, because that's what that's there for. But if you are an individual who's going into a ranked lobby to play ranked Gears and you want to get all up in my face and mashed and blood sprayed against the wall, I say be my guest, but you hesitate over that quit button. Man, I'm telling you, if you were sat next to me, I'd be backhanding you faster than Mary Poppins can fly a bloody umbrella. I'd be pissed. It really does get on my nerves, man. And I mentioned Horde earlier, like that was a to and fro comment. Even on Horde, it frustrates the hell out of me when you go on to Horde to play with 4 randoms, or you and your mate with 3 randoms, or what have you, to get your skill points, try and make it away 50. You're committed to the end game, and some knobhead just thinks, I'm going to leave, and then you're down to 4 men with an AI, and then you're 3 men, because once one person drops, it is pointless staying. I'm an idiot. I'll stay as long as I can to get as many points as I can until I can't fight anymore. But too many times I've been playing Horde, and one person leaves, so the other 3 I'm with are like, well, there's no point in staying. We're never going to make it away 50. And then they leave, and then it's just me and 4 AIs till the bitter end, kind of like the Halo Reach ending. Honestly, man. It's safe to say it peeves me to the high heavens, and I think I applaud, if my clapping wasn't evident enough, I applaud this decision. Absolutely applaud it, and I think that it should set a precedent for any game, really, whether it's Halo, FIFA, Gears, Forza. I don't give a fuck. I just think every multiplayer game should have one of 2 things. Should have these 2 things: a friendly arcadey lobby where it really doesn't matter, you just want to have a little bit of fun, doesn't matter if you quit, happy days, and your ranked lobbies for the hardcore who want to get in, grit, clench their teeth, true grit, fight to the bitter end, no quitting, and if you do quit, you get banned for a year. Screw it, make it 10 years, I don't care. If you are a pussy willow and you can't take losing at a video game, then you have no business playing. And if you can't lose at a video game, you must be pretty soft. I'm sorry, because out of 10 games, I probably lose 8, but it don't matter. It's just part of the fun.
You're having hashtag fun, right? I think that's what it's all about. Yes,
absolutely. I'm seeing a few people in the chat saying a year-long ban is way too much. I mean, that's your opinion, guys. I am not going to take that away from you at all. But you've got to understand the fact of the matter is this. If they only ban people for 20 minutes or ban people for an hour, that isn't going to stop many people. It might deter a few, but it won't stop everyone. If you want to eradicate the problem, you have to be extreme. Now, think about it. I don't care who you are, where you are in the world. If you know that you are going to be banned for a year or more for quitting, guess how many people are not going to quit anymore? I tell you, no one. No, I doubt many people are going to risk quitting. Do you know what I mean? I just think, it's bold, it's ballsy, it's quite a long time to be banned from a game, but I think it's relevant because then it weans out the people who quit, and the people you're playing against, you're going to be having a full game with a full squad, no problem, no questions asked. So I think it's a great thing, Boom, and I applaud it, and I hope more games do it.
Well, I mean, listen, you take, for instance, a good friend of the show, good friend of this community, more specifically, JT Gamer, who's here each and every week. He says that he kept getting matched with this dude, and he rage quit on him 7 times in a row. 7 times, folks. So I'm not saying that the team at the coalition are banning you for your internet shit out, or you had to run and you just quit. No, I don't think that's the case. I think that the bans go from 1 day all the way up to a year, and I think only the worst of the worst, like the guy that rage quit 7 times in a row, would be one of those people that get banned. And I gotta be honest with you. Yeah, sure, being banned for a year, that blows. But at the same time, don't you think that the behavior is that bad that they have to go to those extremes? And I'm going to say probably yes. I don't think that you're just going to be some poor guy that had to run, and then of course you had to quit because you had to go pick up your kids from school because you didn't watch the clock. I don't think that's the case. Zemi Games, I want to get your opinion on this now. I know that you play Gears. You actually play online Gears, and you're pretty damn good at it, from what I understand. And that's why I kind of really want to get your take on this. Do you agree with the rage quitting and the fact that if you are considered the worst of the worst, which I believe that there is a certain group that fits that mold, that you can get banned for a year from Gears 5. Do you agree with some people in the chat that it's too excessive, or do you agree with me in the well saying that, well, don't quit like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's disgusting. I really do. And you know, here's the thing. We've all quit out of matches. I don't care who you are. If you've played Xbox Live long enough, you've quit out of a match. It happens. You know, things happen in your life. More importantly is how exactly is this new feature being implemented into the game? I have not seen or played one game yet that can distinguish quitting from the game or the game crashing or your internet
getting bumped
out,
off
or exactly, right? Things happen. Let's say that you are playing Gears of War ranked, right? And your Xbox crashes, okay? You come back on and it says, okay, you have to wait 15 minutes. Okay. Then let's just say, the next day, your internet cuts out. Okay. Well, now you have to wait maybe a day. Okay. God forbid you are the unfortunate soul who there's some people working on your power lines the next day, and then you get banned for a month. Like, it's not fair. It's not right. And
okay.
it's really, really, I think it's a really bad way of going about it. Of course, people quit out of games. People are always going to quit out of games. This isn't going to stop this. This is just going to get your player base to stop playing your game because they can't play your game, right? And I mean, even I just don't like how it's escalated up to a year. I understand, putting time restraints on players is not a new thing. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it, works better than other times. But, put a 15-minute timer on there. Reduce their rank and ranked modes, or make the matchmaking better. That way the player is on an even playing field with other players, so they're less likely to leave, right? There's multiple ways of going about this. And I think implementing a 1 month or even a 1 year ban is absolutely overboard.
Okay, I appreciate the opinion. I'm glad that we're looking at this from two different angles.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is just the way I look at it, right? Let's say that you like playing Gears of War online. Let's say that you go into a match and your wife calls you. She had like an emergency or something. You quit out of the match. Right there's a short ban. Let's say you come home later on after your ban is over and you start playing and there's a power outage. Right there's another ban. Let's say that just some unfortunate thing happens to you and you receive enough bans where now you can't play the game for 6 months. Is that fair?
I see your point, and as a matter of fact, Philly Eagle, big friend of the show, saying that there is in fact an appeal process to get you unbanned. I guess maybe you could reach.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to.
Okay,
let's just be honest.
I mean,
you know what I mean. You shouldn't have to go and appeal to be able to play a game that you spent $60 for just because you had really crappy luck. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, no, I see I see what you're saying, and I agree with you.
Oh, sorry. Christ, I just had a tickle on the throat. I will take what I said, and I'm not going back on anything I said. I applaud this. But maybe, just maybe, I will lend a leaf out of Zemi's book here, and maybe if it was me and I was Ferguson and I was putting things in place, maybe I would implement like a 3-strike and you're out rule. So with the appealing things still in place. So say hypothetically, Zemi, your wife has been rushed into hospital because she's pregnant or something, and you need to go to the, oh shit, yeah, I gotta quit. I'm not gonna leave it. I'm not gonna keep playing. What sick bastard would do that? But I mean, and maybe that would give you like a day's ban or a few hours ban. But implementing a 3-strike rule, I think would probably be the best way to go, simply because if you are a serial rage quitter, and there are many of them out there, you're going to use up those 3 strikes pretty quickly. And for those people out there, I think you deserve a year ban if you go through your 3 strikes within an hour sitting in Gears or any game for that matter. So I completely stand by what I'm saying. completely stand by what I'm saying, but I also sympathise with what you're saying, Zemi, and I'll agree that I think to compromise, I think maybe a 3-strike rule, like 3 strikes and you're out, and then when you are out, you can appeal, and you know you've got every right to appeal, but you know depending on your whatever the case, like if they decide not to or to reduce your ban. But I do think that this is ballsy, and I applaud it. But I do know what you're saying.
I mean, and I mean, for me personally, I feel what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. I still think a month is pushing the line really, really strongly. I think a year is absolutely ridiculous. I think that they need to make it, at the very most, they need to make it a 1-week ban. At the very most. If there is someone, you know, on voice chat, you know, spewing racial comments or something, absolutely give them a lifetime ban. But if it's just someone quitting out of a match, I understand it's annoying. It's happened to everyone. And let's just be honest, everyone has also quitted out of a match, you know, from someone else. You know what I mean? It happens. It's not going to stop. You know, and I think that this move, depending on how they do it, could severely impact the number of people who want to play the game.
It's possible. I mean, obviously, you are 100% right. I mean, obviously, if you ban people from playing your game, it's less people playing your game. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, you know, I think that the lead part of the story is banned for a year. Everyone is running with, and I don't necessarily I haven't heard anyone from the community come out and say I was banned for a year and I didn't do anything wrong. Like, we haven't heard that. We just heard that you can be banned up to a year, and that is why everyone is running with the narrative that everyone's going to get banned for a year. I think it's going to probably be like you suggested, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. I don't necessarily know. Again, I don't. You know, a serial quitter is someone like the guy that JD unfortunately got roped into. He quit 7 times in a row. 7 times in a matter of, I don't know what, 30 minutes. That's a little ridiculous. I got to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, those egregious quitters. I mean, the only way you're really going to learn is if you get burned, right? You know, if you didn't know about a fire and you put your hand in the fire and you got burnt, well, you wouldn't put your hand back in the fire, right? So, I mean, maybe a year is too long, but I think there has to be limitations to why someone would get a year ban. I don't think it's going to be everyone across the board that if that unlucky soul had the power go out, got Xbox Live, got attacked, got a DDS attack, and they shut down, or you know you had to run to pick up your kids, and all 3 of those instances happened in a week's time. You're getting the year ban. You may not even get banned at all. You know what I'm saying? You may get a day ban, but you know, I mean, I'll put it to this way. I'm going to continue to follow this story, and I'm going to say this. The first person from the community that comes up and says, I was banned for a year, we're going to be talking about that and the ramifications of what it could be. But we are past the 2-hour mark, and I got to tell you, Zemi, for your first show, this has been a content-packed Xbox Factor podcast, and it's great that you're going to be here every week. And of course, the Welsh Gamer, you were as outrageous as always, and we love it. And this is why we work well together. So let's get to the outros. First of all, I have to thank the 150 plus people watching live in the chat. That is bananas. Thank you so much. Honestly, this is one of my favorite shows to do, even though I really do put maximum effort for each show because I love Xbox so much. I really enjoy hanging out with the Xbox fan base and talking about the good and the bad about the Xbox brand, and it looks like it's going to be all good moving forward. But thank you guys so much for being here and spending 2 hours of your day listening to this show. Also, thank everyone. First of all, I have to thank Chaos Theory for becoming a channel member. Dude, thank you very much. That is very, very kind of you to do. And it's greatly appreciated. Of course, the super chats were amazing as always. But Welsh Gamer, let's get you out of here. Your missus just got home from work. You're very active on Twitter, and you are a community member that does talk privately with in the DM with many people from the community. Your YouTube channel, I think people should still subscribe, even though you're not as active on it as you used to be. It's still worthy of subscribing because obviously you're supporting the Welsh Gamer. Please tell everyone where they can do that, and more importantly, reach out to you if they have a question on Twitter.
Right, guys, love you guys. Zemi, it has been amazing. It's been awesome to have you. I'm glad. I got to be honest. I'm going to be perfectly honest. When Boom came to me initially and said third panel member, I came straight back at Boom and was like, I'm not too sure, man. I kind of like this duo thing, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, Zemi. That was my first response, but chatting to him back and forth, and having actually like done this trio thing. Man, who are the Three Musketeers? I've never heard of them.
I appreciate it, man.
Honestly, I appreciate you. I appreciate your takes on all the topics. I look forward to working with you more in the future. And yeah, if you want to follow me at the Welsh Gamer 93, my YouTube channel is still alive and active. You're more than welcome to go over there and subscribe and whatnot. But yeah. Lovely chatting to you guys again. Big shout out to Wound Up Penguin in the chat. I've literally been back and forth with this person for about an hour and a half. Apparently calling Crap Gamer a dick was really uncalled for. I strongly disagree, but in the presence of people who don't think it's right, I'll say I don't know, nothing. Right, that's all I got for you guys. That's the Welsh Gamer, and Zemi, give us your outro, dude. Much love.
Well, listen, of course, thank you for being here, and obviously we're going to be doing this again next week, next Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time on the East Coast, and of course, Zemi will, of course, be filling that chair on a regular basis. Zemi, it was great to have you a part of this show. You did exactly what I expected you to do. You knocked it out of the park. You are an Xbox-specific gamer, but at the same time, you always have a great opinion about gaming as a whole, even when we talk about PlayStation and or Nintendo on the Breakfast with Boom show, which is tomorrow's going to be your last episode, and of course, I'll have you back from time to time as a guest, whenever you want. But do me a favor, you have a great YouTube channel. You do a lot of work there. You actually just did a Halo topic, which I watched and I laughed because it's funny. I had started writing this show on Sunday, and then I saw your video. I'm like, oh, that's funny. He's going to talk about this all over again on today's show. But more importantly, tell everyone they could follow you on Twitter, which of course we need to get those numbers up. So tell everyone where they could do that, bro.
Well, first off, thank you so much, Boom, and the Welsh Gamer for letting me, come on to this podcast as a regular panel member. I love talking about Xbox. It's the main way I play, and so I'm super excited to be on a podcast that's all about Xbox. And then tomorrow will be the very last time I'm on Breakfast with Boom until Boom comes at me and says, hey, I need somebody to fill in the gaps, and then I will happily be back on that podcast again. But yeah, if you guys want to, definitely check out my YouTube channel. It is Zimmy Games. And also follow me on Twitter at Zimmy Games as well. So thank you so much.
Well, listen, great to have you here as a regular panel member, and it was great to have you here today on such a big show. Again, I want to thank the entire chat for being here. You guys power the show, and I really kind of want to drive this point home. YouTubers in general, people who do live streams, would be nowhere without the community's help, and I just want you to know that it's for every view that I get, it is honestly greatly appreciated, and I want to wish everyone a great rest of your Thursday. Tomorrow morning's Breakfast with Boom, I got news for you, might be the biggest show I've personally ever put together when it comes to topics. I mean, we have some really hot and spicy PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Scarlett topics that are going to, I have a really good feeling, possibly rub a lot of feathers the wrong way. And I'm only reporting on the stories, but we have Jamie Moran, we have, and our other special guest is going to be King from the Iron Lords podcast. It's going to be an amazing show, lots of big opinions and big personalities. So I hope you can tune in tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on my YouTube channel. So once again, thanks for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.